Hi, folks. Steve Urban here. Today's episode of the Riderflex podcast is sponsored by Marketing 360. My good friend JB Kellogg and his team do such a fantastic job for us and so many other companies. Marketing 360 is the number one platform for small business, and it's everything you need to grow your business. If you need marketing support, I really encourage you to contact them at marketing360.com/Riderflex, and we'll add that link to the description of this episode for easy reference. And on today's episode of the Riderflex podcast, we have guest Kim Gamez. She's the co-founder and CEO at Mi Padrino, an event planning service to help parents and families organize, plan, and fund events celebrated in the Hispanic tradition. They help you organize and share the details of your events with friends and family around the globe instantly. Kim Gamez on the Riderflex podcast. How you doing, Kim?
I am great. How are you?
I'm awesome. Are you in? Are you in Michigan today?
We are. Yes, I am in Michigan, and for once, it's not snowing. It snowed over the weekend again.
Are you
believe
serious?
it?
Are you serious?
No.
Is that the
I'm
last
not.
one? Is that the last one?
Oh, it should have been. It should have been. This should have been in February. So yeah, hopefully it's the last one.
Now, where you live, what part of Michigan, by the way?
So we're right outside of Ann Arbor, Michigan.
Okay. So when is it safe? Like if you put annual flowers in your front yard, like what's your like, is like Mother's Day weekend normally the safe?
Yes, Mother's Day weekend, even though it snowed on Mother's Day weekend, but it was Mother's Day weekend.
Same for Colorado. I'm in Colorado, and we always kind of target Mother's Day weekend. It's the same thing. We got a little cold spell, and I was like, oh man. And so we actually need to put our flowers. We actually need to plant. Now we're a week behind.
That's all right.
So is that where you grew up? Michigan? Are you from there?
Yeah, born and raised. Yeah, born and raised in Michigan. Met my husband here, but he's not from Michigan. He's from Mexico. So
well, tell us about you growing up, and give us some personal stuff. Tell us about your childhood and your family a little bit.
Yes, I was actually raised by entrepreneurs. My parents owned one of the biggest real estate firms in our town. So I was raised putting, open house flyers on doors, and, like child labor laws obviously weren't a thing back then. My dad had us licking envelopes and everything else.
Great. Awesome.
Was raised, I have two brothers. I was actually born with a twin sister. So I always felt, she died when we were babies, but I have always felt this, like that I was given this chance, that she didn't have in life. And so I've always kind of been this overachiever. I don't know why, if it's stemmed from that, just, you only have one life, so you better, make the most of it. But yeah, just there, was raised in Napoleon. So it's this little farm town. I graduated with like 80 people in my class. Super proud. Actually, that's where we live now. And my kids have some of the same teachers I had when I was growing up.
Really? Oh, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Okay. So you see the same teachers. How old are your kids?
So I have 5 kids.
Wow.
I know. So my oldest is 17. And then my youngest is 2. So, and I have every age in between.
Man, it's busy at your house. It's busy.
Very busy.
And so when they're involved in activities and stuff in school, like you see some of the same teachers, the same coaches or whatever, like you go to school events, you're like, hey.
Yeah. And I can't call them by their first name. They're like, hey, Kent, and he's like, call me Craig. And I'm like, no, Mr. Boer, I have to call you Mr. Boer.
That's pretty funny. That's pretty good. Wow. So same area. Okay. All right. So your parents were entrepreneurs. By the way, residential real estate or commercial or both, or what were they in?
Both. So my dad was kind of like the big commercial realtor in town, but they owned their own real estate company. So he had, residential, real estate agents that worked for him.
I see. All right. So like you said, I can just envision you like running up to the yard to put the flyers in the little box. Like that was probably one of your jobs.
Yeah. Every weekend. I mean, he had us going like neighborhoods for open houses. Yeah. We were his little, workforce.
That's pretty good. Okay. So then you graduate from that big, huge high school and then what? How'd you decide to, when you went to school, how did you decide on, I think you started at Jackson Community College first. How did you decide that? How did you decide what to major in? Walk us through some of that.
Yeah, so I actually didn't. I started in Jackson College when I was in high school, actually. I was able to
Okay.
take some classes there, but then I always
Okay.
wanted to do hair. And so I went to beauty school right out of high school.
Ah,
But almost, all the way through the program, I realized that I didn't want to work in a salon for someone else, that I actually wanted to own my own business or my own
okay.
salon.
Yeah.
So from there, enrolled in business school, and that's actually when I had met my husband, my now husband. I was his English tutor. So he had been, when he was in Mexico, he wanted to be a doctor, and he was in medical school, and actually his family ran out of money to send him through school, and so he
Okay.
moved to the States, and he was working to get back into college, and that's how I met him. It was like my
Now,
part-time job.
were you, so you were doing this on the side. You were English tutor on the side.
Yep. I mean,
I
I wasn't like a licensed tutor. I mean, it was like, he thought I was hot. He wanted to learn English. I thought he was cute. And I was like, I can teach you.
Well, how did you even connect? Were you at like a party or whatever? And he's like, "Hey, can you teach me English?" Like, how'd that even happen?
Totally at a party.
I can just see now. I can just almost see it. He's like, I wonder what my pickup line could be. Let me think for a second. I know. I'll tell her that I need to learn English, and that'll get a good. That's perfect pickup line. I love it.
So yeah, but I made him, I would go over there like every night, and I made him pay me. Like, I was like, I need the money. You're going to pay me to be your tutor.
So good. I love that. That's a good story. Very cool. All right. All right. So you've been married for a long time. How long have you been married?
18 years.
18 years. All right. And 5 kids at your house. All right. All right. Very
Yeah.
cool. All right. So you meet this guy with this classic pickup line. All right. You get married. You finish school. You thought you wanted to do hair. Go ahead. Walk us into that early career.
Okay. So actually, my parents, again, with the commercial real estate company.
Okay. Okay.
When my dad met my husband, he's asking about like his dreams and everything. And my husband had always told him that his family's dream was to own a restaurant. And so there was a local restaurant that was put up for sale. My dad said, you can get a great deal on this restaurant, but we're like in the middle of school. And so we ended up both dropping out, or he actually never even enrolled, but I dropped out of school. We opened a restaurant. Mind you, I was 20 years old.
Did your dad, your parents fronted the cash for it or whatever? How'd that work?
No, it was a land contract. It was land contract.
Wow.
So
all right.
I was 20, just had gotten married, baby getting married. I can't believe my parents even were okay with that. 20, getting married. I was married, just gotten pregnant with our oldest. And then we opened our first restaurant.
Okay.
And did you know in the state of Michigan, you can sell liquor at 18? You can't consume it. But so I had a liquor license in my name at 20.
So let me get this. Let me just think for a second. You're 20 years old. You're pregnant. You have absolutely zero restaurant experience.
I waited tables through high school. So I had that.
All right. You had that. All right. This is up. So you're starting a business that has traditionally, like, what restaurant ownership is like, what, a 90% failure rate or something, like a super high.
I think it's like 95. I don't know. I wasn't thinking. Obviously I was a child.
Okay. What was the plan? Were you like, hey, how were you going to split up the duties with you and your husband? What was the plan? Talk to me about it.
He was in the back of the house and I was in the front of the house. I did I was going to do the marketing. I was going to have the servers, the bartenders. At the time, Coyote Ugly was really popular. So our restaurant, he always wanted to have a restaurant called El Vaquero Loco, which means the Crazy Cowboy. And I thought, in our town, nobody can pronounce that. And so I'm like, let's just call it the Crazy Cowboy. And then at the bottom, I had the Spanish translation. And we had both Mexican and American food. I had the girls up on the tables, like doing like hour long. Oh my God. I went all out, and we were so successful. We were the whole time, the 17 years we owned the restaurant. But at the very beginning, we would run out of food multiple times a day. So we'd have to close the doors. I would just put a note up. We ran out of rice and beans. Please come back in 2 hours.
Wow.
We appreciate the business. And thank God for those customers that just kept coming back, even though we were out of stuff.
What a learning experience. I mean, everything from all the entrepreneurial lessons, all of the people management lessons. Oh my God, that was like an MBA. That's like getting your doctorate right there, just in entrepreneurship, right?
Right.
Whew. 18 years. That's a lot. Hey, first of all, kudos. Anybody that owns a restaurant for 18 years and makes money, that's by the way, that's a small group of people. Congrats. So what'd you do? Why'd you stop?
Well, selling tacos was good to us. So over the years, over the past 18 years, we've invested, we say taco money we had another restaurant and a banquet facility. We also took after my parents. We own 64 rental units now. So we've been investing the money that we've made into other opportunities for our family. And then it was in 2016, I had an idea, for a new company, and we decided to, sell the one restaurant and banquet facility and start this new company. And then it was just this. Sorry, go ahead.
Did you sell it because you wanted to use that cash to start the new one, or because it was just too much and you couldn't do it all, or both?
Both. I mean, we owned restaurants and we were landlords. And so those two jobs are like on the top 10 of like the jobs that most people would never do in their lifetime. And we did both of them. And so, yeah, I mean, I could not, there was just not enough time. And at the time we had 4 kids. And so I always,
let's just take a pause right there just for the listeners. Okay, let's all just breathe for a second. I got 4 kids. I got like 24 rental units. I got 2 restaurants. I mean, I don't even know how you did that. I mean, wow.
64 rental units.
64. Okay. Yeah, I would have sold something too. All right. So you sell these. You got
the second restaurant and the bank facility we sold.
Okay. Now, how'd you come up with this business idea, which is Mi Padrino, right?
Right.
How did this, tell us how this even came about? Oh, I know. Let me guess. In your spare time, you were like, I wonder what other business I can start.
No. So I love problem solving. And I did that at the restaurants. I would see an opportunity and we'd go after it. And that's why, we'd been successful for so many years. Okay. And so I was actually at home, and my husband's from Mexico. And so there's always a good fiesta for everything, for whether it's your, weddings or just over the top. Same thing with quinceañeras, or when you turn 15, their events just huge. Even if it's a graduation or a baptism, just amazingly. Just
going to events all the time. Yep.
All the time. And they're always over the top. Yep. So my niece actually asked us she was in Mexico, and she called and asked us if we'd be padrinos for her quinceañera. And so a padrino, if you're not familiar, is a Spanish term for godfather, for sponsor. And it's,
I looked it up before the podcast.
You did. Yeah. So it's definitely people that pay for your party. Yep. And so like your friends and family will pay for like the cake or the bar or the band or what have you.
Yep.
And so had reached out from Mexico and said, tía güera, which means like Aunt Blondie. I'm the güera. I'm the Aunt güera. And like, will you be the madrina, which is the female version of padrino, for the pillow for the church? And because they have a kneeling pillow at the quinceañera. And I was like, sure, I'll do the pillow. Okay. And then it turned into like what color pillow she needed and like how was I going to get it to her. And then, never mind, I'll just send you the money. But now she's in Mexico, so we have to wire transfer. And it just turned into this huge process. And so I remember looking at my husband and I'm like, I wish she just had like her list of things that she wanted from her padrinos online, and that I could just put in my credit card and she could get whatever the heck she wanted. And he's like, that would be awesome. And so that literally was the day that like the light bulb turned on. And then just, I've always like with the family and even at our own business planning events. And I thought, really, like, how are all these events still planned offline when it came to even the products or the service vendors, like DJs, bakeries, venues? Like if you want something for your quinceañera, you literally have to use word of mouth. And then, padrinos are all organized offline. I thought there's just a huge business model that could be created. And then I did a little bit of research and I found out that there were hundreds of thousands of these events celebrated every year in the US. And I'm like, I believe it. Shit. I mean, I don't know if I can say that, but like there's such a huge opportunity for us. It's way more than slinging tacos in Jackson. So that's kind of where the whole thing started. So.
And then when you looked online, I'm sure you looked to see if anybody was doing it. Probably tried to say, okay, what anybody else got this going on? Nobody, nothing like this out there. Wow. Well, now, okay. So isn't this a play off of, or similar to like if you're going to have a kid or you're going to have a baby shower or you're going to have a wedding, aren't there websites you go to where you can just say, yeah, everybody go here and these are the gifts I want? I can't remember what they are, but aren't there?
So it's a registry. So like you're talking about like a party registry or a gift registry?
Yeah, right.
So yeah, there are like huge players in the wedding space. So there's the Knot and Wedding Wire. They're like, they do over $100 million a year in the wedding space. Giants, but they're talking to like the all-American bride. They're talking to everyone. They're not specifically talking to one type of bride. And so the Hispanic bride, a Hispanic wedding ceremony is very different than a traditional kind of like all American wedding ceremony. You know,
Okay.
there's different traditional components. Also, the vendors are different. Typically you have a DJ that speaks Spanish, a photographer that understands the culture, a venue that, you know, gets it. And so there just wasn't really a big player that was tackling Hispanic weddings. And there definitely wasn't anybody talking about the other traditional events.
I see. Okay. Yeah. So you saw an opportunity, just like you've been doing the whole time with the restaurants and everything else. So then what? You go home one night and you tell your husband, you're like, "Hey, I think we're going to start something else." How did that conversation go? At first, was he like, "What, are you crazy? Like, we're busy right now."
Oh no, he knows I'm crazy. I mean, he knows. And I was always looking for that like next idea. I always said I had like $1 million ideas.
All
and I'd always say like, I'm going to throw this against the wall. It's like, you know, throw shit against the wall, something will stick.
Yeah. Yep.
And so I'd always call my mom with them too. Like, Mom, I got an idea. You know, I had all kinds of random stuff. And this one just kept like circling back. Like this could be the one. And so, yeah, I just said, you know,
let's do it.
What if I just start talking to people? And I ended up participating in a boot camp where basically it takes an idea to see if it actually could be a business.
Okay.
I enrolled in an accelerator. Well, it was a part of an accelerator, but there was just the boot camp section of it. It was a month long. Found out that thousands of people would use this platform if I built it. And so that's really kind of where it started. And yeah.
And then you, how'd you decide on the name, by the way? I mean,
Mi Padrino.
It fits obviously, but how'd you?
Yeah. So it's Mi Padrino. Like, so, you know, you rely on your padrino or your madrina for a lot of things, not just to help you pay for your party. I mean, that's just kind of a fun extra. I mean, you rely on them to help give you advice or to, you know, be there. And so that's what Mi Padrino is. We're there for you to help, whether it's to find a product, to find a service vendor, to give you the tips, to give you guidance, to be here if you're crying because your party was canceled because of COVID-19. I mean, we want to be that for our users.
So let's do that. Let's do a nice kind of, just give us you touched on it right there, but give us the Mi Padrino overview from start to finish as it stands today. Give us the I'm sure you've done plenty of pitches at this point, right?
I have.
Give us the 5-minute elevator pitch real quick. Go for it.
Yeah. So Mi Padrino, we're an online and mobile application that makes the planning and paying for Hispanic celebrations easy and effective. The old way, like I mentioned before, took weeks, months, even years to organize. Where Mi Padrino users can come and find ideas and inspiration. They can find traditional products. They can book their local service vendors, you know, within a matter of minutes. We went from an idea, like I told you, 2016, to that first year, within the first 6 months, we had over 50,000 people use Mi Padrino. Last year alone, we had just over 900,000 people use the platform. And that's within 2 years. And so, yeah, so that's, and we make money a couple different ways, but yeah, that's my like 60-second pitch.
Talk to us about the business model. I'm curious. So do the users pay, or do the vendors pay? Like, walk us through the business model. Go ahead.
Right. So when we first launched Mi Padrino, well, we learned right away after we launched that we should be focusing on user growth and retention. Because if you look like companies like Yelp, or even the Wedding Wire and the Knot, or even, I'm not sure if you're with the company House, that you can find like, anyway. Yeah. But they all focused on user growth and retention first, and then monetization second. So it's really, if we have all of these users, the vendors will pay to be on the platform. National advertisers will pay to have partnerships with us. There'll be lots of ways that we can make money. Okay. And so we did that, but that took a lot of capital. And so, but as of January, now we have ways now, because we've hit that like million user mark. We're rolling out like an ad platform for national advertisers. So we're working with a couple national advertisers who want to talk to the Hispanic, you know, woman or daughter, because the majority of our users are females. We also have our vendor platform. So local service vendors, like I mentioned before, like the DJs, bakeries, venues, can advertise a monthly subscription model to be on the site. So when we know we have so many people in Denver, Colorado, and we recommend those service vendors to those users. And, so
if I'm a user, I'm like, oh, I want to pick my my chef or the person that's going to bring the food. I click through the vendors that you have up, and you've said, hey, these 5 people right here are awesome. Pick one of these. That's how that works.
Yeah, we don't necessarily say they're awesome. We say these vendors are available in your area that want customers like you. I see. Because right now you can't just go to Google and say, I'm having a quinceañera in X city. I need a photographer. you won't find them. That's
I
where the
see.
whole that's why Mi Padrino works, because there wasn't a source. There wasn't this directory of companies that could
I see.
advertise to
I
get
see.
this type of clientele.
I see. And so the vendors pay you when they get picked, or they pay you just to be on there, or both?
It's a monthly subscription. So they
Okay.
pay whether they get 10 new customers a month, or they pay the same if they get 100 leads a month. It's
I
just
see.
this
I see.
the same amount of money every month. It's a subscription.
And
And
how
then
about, go ahead.
no, I was just going to say, then we also have our shop. So it's an e-commerce platform. So our
Oh,
users can go shop traditional goods, but then we don't carry any inventory
right. Yeah.
at our
No,
home
yeah, I don't,
office.
yeah.
They're drop shipped from our wholesale relationships, and
Perfect.
some
Perfect.
are in Texas, California, some are even in Mexico. And when they get the order comes in, they send directly to our customer, which is great.
So the business model now is you got your vendors paying you now, and you're selling products.
Mm-hmm.
And the users, what do the users do? Are they paying a monthly subscription or per event, or what are they doing?
No, they're providing leads to our vendors, which our vendors are paying for.
Gotcha.
They're buying products. So we're able to give our products at a discounted rate because we're not carrying any inventory. So we don't have the overhead of a retail location. So they're getting a great price on the product. And they also are creating these eyeballs that the national advertisers want. And so our users don't pay us anything, but they
Wow.
are the core, component of our business.
Is that the model you envisioned in the beginning, or that you pivoted to that and made some changes as you moved along?
Honestly, the first platform that we built was the crowdfunding component. So the Padrino piece of Mi
Oh,
Padrino. So our users can create an event page that has all their party details, and then they can say, I want these things for my party. And then their Padrinos can contribute right online or pay for the different pieces. Remember my
okay.
niece that I was talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Basically, she could have created a page and then shared it with me, and I could have been like, I want the pillow. Cha-ching, done. So that's the only piece that we launched with. But then we soon realized that there was really no resource for ideas and inspiration for vendors, all of that. So then we just built it all in.
Wow, very good. Excellent story for the listeners that are aspiring entrepreneurs on how you can just make changes and pivot. Everybody thinks you got to have this perfect plan in the beginning before you start, and then you just follow that perfect plan and it all comes together. It never goes that way. Never. Like, no entrepreneur I ever talked to, they always like make little tweaks and changes and, oh, we should do this, we should do that. So I appreciate you sharing some of that. So, and you've been in business for how long?
So we started 3 years ago, but we launched just like 2.5 years ago.
And how many employees now?
I have because of COVID, we had to let 2 employees go because
Oh, okay.
it is what it is. The company
Yeah, it is.
itself was thriving, but we're cash dependent on investors, and investors are scared to do really anything right now. And so I wanted to make sure that we were in this for the long term. So I had to let a couple employees go, which is unfortunate. So now we're down to 9 employees.
Let's talk about the cash stuff. So you bootstrapped it. I'm guessing you bootstrapped it yourself in the beginning, and then you eventually went out to raise outside cash. How when did you start doing that, and how many times have you had to raise, and where are you at in fundraising? Give us an overview.
Well, I never wanted this to be a small business. And I
Yeah.
say this in my pitch, and I mean it with all of my heart. My end goal is the same as my investors. I want to grow Mi Padrino as fast, but as smart as possible to be attractive to the numerous brands that want a piece of our demographic.
Okay.
And so with that being said, I invested the first money because I also don't want to take money if I can't give it back. I don't want to just give you back your money. I want to give you back a multiple on your money. And so we invested the first cash into the company, but then I did a friends and family round, just local, my actual friends and family. And then from there, I pitched Mi Padrino in 2018 and won $100,000 at Accelerate Michigan.
What?
It was
like,
crazy.
What is that, like contest money, like grant money, like just here you go?
No, so Michigan has this amazing program. It's called Accelerate Michigan, and they give over $1 million of prize money, not away. This part of it, some of it's investment, some of it's grant. So our 100,000, 25 was a grant and 75 was an investment, but it was under the current terms of whatever round I was raising. So it wasn't like I had to negotiate a new deal. And it was great. So, and at the time I was so remember I told you I had 5 kids. So yep. I had 4 children when I had the idea for Mi Padrino. And I was actually scheduled to get a tubal, so I couldn't have any more babies. Okay. And I was going in to get the blood work done like the week before the operation. They said, Kim, we have to reschedule this. And I'm like, why? They go, because you're pregnant. And I thought my life was over. We had just sold the restaurant. We had just launched, or we had just like put our money into the development team to build what is now Mi Padrino. And I thought, I have to go pitch my company with a big baby bump, and they're going to look at me just like you did, like 5 kids. And so it was like life was over. So I immediately knew that I had to talk to investors that wouldn't look at my stomach, would just hear my pitch and see the opportunity with the company. So I flew, I actually got picked to pitch at Chloe Capital in upstate New York. And I had just had my daughter. She was not even 2 weeks old. I took my mom and the baby on the plane, pitched at this event, and ended up winning first place and won a $50,000 investment from them.
So cool.
And then I came home and won $100,000 at that Accelerate Michigan, that next week. But I say that because we only had like $6,000 in the bank when that happened.
What? Really? Oh, because you had spent all of it on development and setup and all the pre-work?
Yes.
Okay. Is that, so the major expense was paying developers to code and build all this back end and front end stuff, I'm guessing?
Yeah. I mean, I had contracted employees, and I've actually hired the majority of my contracted employees on full time. So it's great. So all my employees that I have now have actually been with us since the very beginning. But it was just a lot of money up front, and we made a lot of mistakes. I mean, and so we had to redo a lot of things. I mean, it's all part of growing the company. I mean, we launched Mi Padrino, and we wanted, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but we had this goal for 2017 of having 600 users. And so we launched in the summer, and I said, like, how are we going to get these users? Like, it's built. What are we going to do now? We launched a Facebook marketing campaign, put $400 behind it. We had 20,000 hits to our site that night, and it crashed our platform because I thought we just need 600 people, and we had 20,000 people hit Mi Padrino. And so we just weren't ready. I mean, and things broke, and so we had to fix, and it was just crazy. But I mean, now we're built to scale. But yes, it was a very long first year, and being pregnant and pitching with a belly, it was great.
You got down to $6,000. I mean, that's a true story. So I mean, was there some sleepless nights in there where you're laying in bed going, oh my God, what did we do? Why did we sell the restaurant? Why did we pour all this money into these developers? I'm sure there was some of that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and it was just, but I just knew I had such a great idea because the platform was that we had so many users, and we knew that there was this demand. And so I just had to pitch in front of the right investors. Did you also have some early investors that were starting to apply pressure? Did you have any of that where they're calling you going, hey man, where's my money? No, because all of my investors are in it the same way I am. We're in it for the long term, for that big payout at the end. So nobody, I wouldn't have taken your money if you wanted it right away. We're in this together for the paycheck at the end.
Good. Now how much can you share? Are you cash flow positive? Are you still in a burn rate and having to bring on cash? I think you actually said you're dependent on investors. So are you still in the growth burn rate, or are you producing a profit? Can you talk, how much can you give us?
I mean, I won't be able to tell you exact numbers, but I can tell you we just started monetizing the platform in January. And so in Q1, so January, February, March, we crushed our goals as far as monetization. So it was really exciting. It's like, okay, guys, it's been this like, can we do this?
Yeah.
And we're doing it. Then COVID happened. Or the Rona, or whatever the cool kids say on the street.
And then you're like, oh my God, we've finally got this thing going for revenue, and now this happens.
Yeah. And so if you think about it, with the coronavirus, it's killed the event industry.
Oh yeah. Oh,
people don't know when they can plan events. People are having to cancel events. Vendors don't have any money because they're out of business until, things are lifted. And so, yeah, it's been a really scary time for the company. But with that being said, parties are still going to happen. So people and families are home. And so what's a good distraction is planning an amazing fiesta. And so we have our business is actually thriving in this time. We have users home planning their crazy celebrations. Right. But like I said, we are, dependent on investment. And I was right in the middle of raising our seed round. And so we had actually closed half of it. So we have cash in the bank. But I wanted to make sure that lasted us, as long as the full amount that we were raising. So
I have a feeling, I mean, if I was an investor looking at your company, I think, first of all, I think it's going to explode. I think there is so much pent up demand for events and gathering as human beings and getting together and socializing. I personally, by the way, for the listeners, we're recording this episode on May 13th, 2020. And so my personal opinion is that there's pent up demand and people are just going to explode. And you're about to be hit with all kinds of events that people have been stalling on, and you're about to be crushed and crazy busy. I think that's what's going to, I think it's just going to, the gates are going to lift and it's going to explode. Now I don't want to get into a whole Corona thing, but I've had other people tell me, oh no, I think it's going to start slow and people are going to be careful. I'm just telling you, I'm recording this on May 13th and Steve Urban's making a prediction. I think it's going to go nuts. I think they're going to lift the gates. I think bars are going to be full. I think restaurants are going to be full. I think you're going to be crazy busy. Give you a perfect example of one of the reasons I think that. My wife works for TJ Maxx and she was off for a long time. The very first day they opened, guess what? They were slammed. They were fighting people that wanted to get in. I think it's going to happen that way for other businesses. I think it's going to happen that way for your business. I think you're going to be super, super busy. So if you are an investor looking at Mi Padrino, like you might want to invest now because whatever Kim is charging you per unit to invest, it's probably going to go up in about 6 months.
That's so funny. Yeah. And it's crazy. I mean, so I skipped over this part of the story. I don't know why, because it's like the best part. So remember the wedding giants, Wedding Wear and the Knot?
Yeah.
Well, they actually merged as one company. So now it's called the Knot Worldwide.
Okay.
But in 2018, before their merger, the Knot actually invested in Mi Padrino. And so now the Knot Worldwide is an investor of ours. And so they've been able to show how even in the wedding industry with 9/11 and, the market crash, that it doesn't only come back, it comes back with a vengeance. I mean, the market is great. And so, with them as investors, it's just been amazing. And so,
are you looking at them as somebody that could acquire you guys? I mean, is that your exit partner, or what are you thinking?
No, I mean, there's lots of companies that could potentially want us. I mean, maybe Pepsi wants to own a company where that has a huge database of Hispanic families, whether it be Amazon or Walmart or the Knot. I mean, there's lots of companies. I'm not putting all my eggs in one basket, but I don't think they made the investment for fun. So it's just exciting to kind of see where that turns out. If anything, they've been just a great resource for us thus far.
I just have so much respect for Hispanic families and the way they gather with events and the way they honor and make family a priority. I live in northern Colorado, and I don't know what our breakdown here is, of all the different races. I couldn't tell you, but I don't know. Maybe Hispanics in Colorado or in my town I really have no idea, so I shouldn't be quoting numbers, but maybe it's 30%. I don't know. But they just do. I mean, you're right. Every event, they really prioritize family, and they celebrate things that my family never did. And I just so respect that. And I have really good friends, and some of them live right here in my neighborhood, and like across the street, I'll be like, damn, they're having another event. Like, damn, they're always getting together. Like, they just do so much better than I do. And then I'll tell my wife, I'm like, how come our kids don't come over for more things? Why don't we get together more often? Right. So I think it's a fantastic platform to serve that community. Really, I mean, great, like you said, great idea from the beginning. Wow. Okay, so I think now moving forward, I think you're going to get you are raising the seed. You're in the middle of the seed round still. Are you having those conversations, or are you kind of paused?
Yeah, we are. I mean, that's why I was at Rocky Venture Club's event on March 11th. That's why we're there.
That's how I met Kim, at Rocky's Venture Club event. Yep. In Denver. Wasn't that crazy? That was right before the coronavirus, and everybody was like
doing like the elbow thing. Yeah. And I was like, that's weird, but it's okay. I'm here. It was good. It was a really good event.
Yeah, totally. I'm so glad we met you there. All right, so let's do this now. Let me ask you a couple of questions around advice for entrepreneurs. I mean, basically you've been an entrepreneur your whole life. I mean, pretty much, right? Yeah. Your family's in the business. You've been doing this. You've been taking risks since you were 20. If there's some aspiring entrepreneurs out there listening right now, and they're thinking about buying that restaurant, or they have an idea for a website business of some kind, but they're scared, they're a little bit nervous, you haven't jumped in the water yet. Well, what would you tell them?
Well, there's a couple things. So mind you, I've never done an interview in my life. Well, not in my life, but in my adult life. I've never worked for anyone else. So except for my McDonald's job and wherever else. So if you want to go home at 5 o'clock or 4 o'clock and not have to think about work, do not become an entrepreneur.
Right.
So being
Good
an entrepreneur,
advice.
there's no set hours. You are working all day, every day. That means 7 days a week, whether you're at work, thinking about work, worrying about work, trying to come up with a solution for work. I mean,
So
it
true.
is. And if you can't do that, then being an entrepreneur is not for you. You should work for another company. And, because obviously great, there's great employees. I have the most amazing employees, and thank God they are not entrepreneurs because I need them on my team. But don't wait until your idea is perfect. Test it out small. So like, if you want to open a restaurant, maybe do a food truck, or maybe do something that you don't have to like put your house as like collateral, and see if you actually like the grind of the crazy hours of a restaurant. If you want to do a software, an app, like maybe build it as cheap as possible and just see if somebody will use it. And if they do, get feedback on it and then build on that. Don't go out and raise. And plus, like, I don't know, people make it sound like you can raise money on just an idea on a napkin. In my world, that doesn't happen.
Yeah, it's not realistic.
No, it's not. I don't know if it's because I'm a female founder in the middle of the Midwest, but it just does not happen.
Yeah.
So just try to build things, or try to start small with whatever ideas, and make sure that one, you still love it. That, like, I have crazy hours now. I mean, I live, breathe, dream about Mi Padrino. I wake up speaking Spanish in my dreams, talking about la no sé qué. And so but I love it. I love my job. And so if you do that, then you should be an entrepreneur. And even if you fail, then you can like even if, let's say, God forbid, Mi Padrino fails, I will totally do this again. Yep. Because I love it. So.
Yeah, you're hooked. Yeah, you're hooked. Yeah. Two awesome pieces of advice that I want to summarize there that Kim just gave. The first one is, entrepreneurship, it's just not for everybody. Yeah. I mean, I don't care how hard you think you're working as an employee, just double down on that. If you're going to try to start a business, you will just work your ass off 24/7. It is nonstop. And so I've always said, the way I say it is, being an employee is easy. Mm-hmm. You want to do something hard, try to be an entrepreneur, because you will just, it's really hard to explain. If you haven't done it, it's really hard to explain to people just how many hours you will put in and how difficult it really is. The other thing I would say there, just to add on to what you were saying, if you're scared enough not to try, don't do it. because if you can't even get past that, you sure as hell aren't going to get past all the hurdles once you start.
Mm-hmm. It's almost like you have to have like a gambling spirit.
A little bit.
Like you have to be able to like be that risk taker. Yes. You also have to be able to pay your employees and not yourself. Like and it's not because at the beginning, yes, I wanted to like hire the workout and I could wait for a paycheck. No, mm-hmm. There's sometimes even now that I need to make sure that the bills are paid. So I'm going to cut my salary, or I'm not going to pay myself, just to make sure that, because employees always get a check. The owners don't always get a check.
That is correct. And I can just confirm that by telling the listeners right now, even at Riderflex, there are several people making a lot more money than I'm making because mm-hmm. you have to build the business, and you have to put the money back. You have to put the cash back into the business and take care of your employees so that you can scale the business up.
Yep.
Really good advice. And I also agree with what you said, start something, whether it's a social media page, or I don't know, maybe you want to sell pies or something. Okay, mm-hmm. Great. Put up a Facebook page about your pies and see if strangers will actually give you cash for a pie, mm-hmm. and then get some followers, and then go from there. Right. I totally agree. Start small, see if you actually have something, and then go from there, and don't wait for the perfect plan.
But also dream big.
Dream big, sure. But
make pies at home, but think about, like, if this really succeeds, I could do that. Way down there, I could do that.
Totally agree. So now at this stage in your life, 17-year-old to a 2-year-old, right? Is that what you said?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Is 2-year-old potty trained right there? Where are you at with that?
Oh God, no.
Not yet.
2.5. And she was like nursing and talking at 2 still. And I was like, oh my God, child, like I've had enough of this whole stage. You need to be like on your own in potty training, but no. Yeah.
Right, because now you just hit another nerve. You're actually still changing diapers, trying to do all this stuff you're doing. Whew, man, I don't know. Your energy level is super high, and your work ethic super high. You get that from your mom and dad. I get. Oh, by the way, which parent has the personality that you have? Who's that? Who's the extrovert?
So they both are. So my dad's actually passed. My dad passed
Okay.
away like
Okay.
5 years ago. Yep.
Okay.
But my dad was always the kind of gambler, as far as like the thinking big, but my mom always made sure she was always the hands that held everything together. So my mom did the books and like made sure the budgets were on and, kind of the marketing side. And then my dad was the salesman. My dad was out there doing his thing. So I say, and my mom was an amazing mom. My mom was the one that made sure she was at all our ball games. My mom was to make sure that, that she was the cool mom with all the kids. And so I'm like, my kid told me the day, he's like, Mom, my friends think you're like so cool. I'm like, because I am. So I think I'm a little bit both, like them both. I always tell him, I'm like, I'm not old really enough to be your mom. Like, I don't know how to do this mom thing, so I'm learning with you, buddy.
By the way, there's one little thing that I think is a positive. We were scaring aspiring entrepreneurs with some of our speech, but I will give you a positive and a plus. Mm-hmm. If you are running your own business and you are an entrepreneur, while it is very difficult, there are those times where you can also say, you know what? My son has a baseball game today at 3 p.m. and I'm going and I don't have to ask anybody.
Yep. No, I think being an entrepreneur is so rewarding.
Yes.
Because it's like, and like, I love my life must sound like chaos, but I love my job and I love my kids and I love my family. Awesome. And so it doesn't seem like chaos. It's so amazing every day. I'm like living literally the dream. And you can't, I don't know if you can always say that if you're working for someone else.
That's right. Totally agree. Agree. Well, a couple more questions, just wrapping up here. If you had to talk to that young lady that was coming out of college and thought she wanted to do hair for a living, mm-hmm. if you could call her and go back in time and call her right now at your age now, what would you tell her?
I don't know. I feel like there's some things I wish I wouldn't have done in my life, but I'm so glad I did because I learned so much from them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I might have said, Kim, I always joke about this and I always say, Kim, wear a condom, because somebody else asked me that. So you don't end up with 5 kids, like Kim, like you forgot, sorry, that like TMI, I don't care. I think it's funny. So, but like I don't know. I couldn't imagine my life without 5 kids, and so,
maybe
I don't know. I just
maybe waited another year or two.
No, because I was crazy and foolish and didn't know any better than to listen to my gut and listen to my customers and treat my employees with respect, because we were all the same age. I wasn't really their boss. And so I do that now. I'm an equal with my employees.
Cool.
I never have treated any, in the 17 years I've owned businesses, I don't think I've ever acted like someone's boss. Like, they don't have to feel like, tension when I walk in the room, or that, if God forbid, Kim's going to yell at me for something. No, I'm your equal. We're here. We're in this together. And so if you succeed, I succeed, and vice versa. And so I don't know. I mean, there's lots of things that, I guess, some smaller things, but just dream big. Go for it. Mm-hmm.
By the way, on your employees, and I should have touched on that more during the interview. If you do enough research on Kim and you look up Mi Padrino and you check out their YouTube page, you'll see a video that highlights your employees, and you're calling them out by name, and they're on the video and stuff. I think that's cool. I think, yeah. I think that's cool. I mean, that is your way of saying, like, hey, my team is really important to me, and I want them to, get some recognition too. So I loved it. I saw that right away when I was doing my homework on you. So kudos for that.
Thanks. Yeah, I have the best team. So.
Well, last question for this. If you had to tell me what your core purpose in life is professionally, and I didn't let you tie that to your wonderful family. So let's move it away from your kids and husband for a second, mm-hmm. and set that kind of over here. And you had to tell me what your core purpose in life is professionally at this stage. What would that sound like?
Just leave my mark. Whether that be, if I helped families, like with Mi Padrino, help, Hispanic families embrace their traditions, while utilizing technology. Amazing. If I'm able to make them embrace their traditions for generations to come. We're raising our children and like we speak Spanish in our home. We celebrate all the traditional, celebrations. And so I want to make sure that in 20 years, my kids still do this, still do the traditions, and they can be, incorporating technology because that's what they want to use.
Right.
But it's also just, I want to be remembered. So if that's me giving
Legacy.
back eventually, like a legacy. I mean, just, I want my employees in the future jobs to be like, oh, Kim was the best boss. Like, I respect her. Like, I don't feel like I demand respect. I want to earn respect. And so, a lot of those things, like, I just want to be remembered. I want for a good reason. I want to be remembered.
You know what I think is cool about the situation we're in now and with the world with technology is, and I have a granddaughter, I have a 1.5-year-old granddaughter. And I think to myself, with all this technology and all these videos, and we're uploading videos of whether it's family or YouTube or interviews or podcast or whatever, and all the pictures that are being stored online. The cool thing about the legacy part is our grandchildren are going to be able to watch all of this and go,
I've never thought of that. That's so cool.
Like, I just found a video of grandma from 2020. Check this out. I think that'll be cool.
Oh my God. I've never thought of that, but that is very cool.
I think that'll be cool. Kim, awesome story. Really. Thank you so
much.
Yeah. Thank you for being on the Riderflex podcast. Very inspirational. You are an inspiration to so many people, with what you're doing and everything you've done so far. So awesome. I'm happy for you.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. This was fun.
The Riderflex podcast features entrepreneurs, business executives, and the stories behind how they got there, as well as daily tips on career advice and job interviews. Our show can be heard just about anywhere these days, but you can visit riderflex.com and click on the podcast page to hear all the previous episodes and learn more about the recruiting and consulting services we provide. Contact us at the email address info@riderflex.com or 888-964-5876. Thanks so much for listening, and if you enjoy our show, please be sure to subscribe to our channel and like the episodes.